And man, on to today's press conference in New York City, Times Square. Crazy Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez finally sharing a card all together. These guys that have come up and we've talked about for so many years. Um, Man, I'll give a couple. Well, what's your initial impressions first, man? What'd you think of the press conference today?
It was alright. Like it wasn't anything like too crazy. I mean, my prediction before the press conference, I was telling my dad, I was like, I, I thought that Barbosa did the most talking, and when he got the microphone, he sure as hell did a lot of talking because he has the plight of a lot of fighters in the sport of the guy that's overlooked. He had to get everything the hard way, go the mandatory route, all that stuff. So he's been feeling slighted for a long time now, and he's looking at this as his moment to shine, and he's firing on all cylinders right now. He's beating Jose Ramirez, he's beating Catterall, and truth be told, Sean, I'm giving him a great chance to beat Tio. We know
Yeah.
Tio. We know Teofimo Lopez doesn't do the best with boxers. Arnold Barbosa is a very well-rounded boxer, so I enjoyed that aspect of it. Everything else was kind of meh, to be honest with you. It was all right.
Yeah, Tiafimo and Barboza by far brought the most intensity. And I do think Tiafimo is definitely a more gifted fighter than Arnold Barboza. In
Yeah,
terms of
yeah,
explosiveness and athletic gifts, he has it on a level Barboza does not. But Barboza, there's shades of Gervonta Davis Lamont Roach in this Tiafimo Barboza matchup. And, Tiafimo is joking around a lot like Gervonta. He's not fully giving his opponent the same level of focus and seriousness that his opponent's giving him. His opponent, like Lamont Roach, has had to come up the hard way, the B-side way. He's a very intelligent, technically sound, proficient fighter with a good IQ, like Lamont Roach, Arnold Barboza. And he showed intelligent feet against Jack Catterall. He beat him a lot with his footwork and with his tactics. And Tiafimo, Barbosa is going to look to capitalize on all the mistakes that he gets away with and makes up for with talent and athleticism. And he'll be studying, he'll be on his P's and Q's. And if Tio tries to go in there and wing it on talent alone, he has a good chance of losing his title. And so, yeah, man, I just think that the early look, press conferences don't win fights. Talk doesn't win fights, but the early foreshadowing, that was a 10-8 Barboza round to start off the fight before the fight between him and Tio. And I'll still give the early edge to Tiafimo again, just because he's got so much talent. And when things are firing on all cylinders for him, he has a lot of flashes of being special. And Barboza, but Barboza, like Lamar Roach, is going to study him from forward to back. He's going to be on his P's and Q's. And he's a grown ass man who's not acting immature like Tiafimo is at times. And some of that's entertaining and some of that draws people in, but it hasn't been drawing him in the right kind of energy lately. And so he's playing with fire a little bit, and he should observe what just happened with Gervonta and Roach, and be smart, be wise to be 100% prepared for Arnold Barboza, man. Because again, Barboza is going to try and use those intelligent feet. He's going to try and capitalize on the mistakes Tio makes, and we'll see what goes down. I think that Tio and Barboza is the most serious and competitive fight on paper out of these
yeah.
three fights. I think Ryan and Rolly is the most explosive and the funnest fight. And then I think Devin Haney's fight may provide maybe the most significant storyline of them all. Maybe not the sexiest storyline, but the most significant one, which is what is Devin Haney? How's he going to look after this? Is he going to look like Fernando Vargas after the Felix Trinidad fight? Shaky anytime someone touches him with a clean shot? Is that punch resistance still going to be there? That confidence? Will he be a little gun shy early in this fight? But Devin Haney has a chance to really come back strong and quiet a lot of people. We'll see, man. What were your early takeaways on that one?
Um, my only takeaway is that it'll be intriguing to see Devin Haney and how he looks above the 140 limit. Like it's not a full welterweight because I could be wrong, but isn't this fight like 143 or something like
Well,
that?
they're thinking of putting it at 44.
44. So yeah,
I don't think
kind
it's
of.
been officially hashed out yet.
Okay, so catch weight fight kind of, but Devin's basically a welterweight now, so it'll be cool to see him how he looks as a welterweight, how his body fills out, and um, you know, Ryan's punch that kept landing on Devin Haney over and over again was left hook, and obviously, Jose Ramirez doesn't have the explosiveness or the speed at this stage of his career of a Ryan Garcia, but his best punch is left hook. So,
Yep.
it'll be interesting to see how Devin Haney can how he defends against this left hook. Ramirez, one of my knocks at him as a fighter from like a skill standpoint is that I've always felt like for a guy that has such amateur experience and so much experience in the gyms, getting top sparring, I feel like as his career has progressed, he's become way too reliant upon his left hook. So he's adamant, he's adamant that he's stronger. He's giving it the old like I'm stronger now speech. I'm intrigued to see what he brings because he's still you said Arnold Barbosa is a grown ass man. Ramirez is a grown ass man with a lot of pride, and a lot of accomplishments. And even though I do think he's past his best, I'm looking forward to seeing what he still has left to give at this stage of his career against Devin Haney.
Yeah, the last thing to go is the power. So, he
Mm.
still got some thump, but he's not as sharp or as quick as he used to be with his hands. Once upon
No,
a
no,
time, Jose Ramirez was a really good combination puncher. Go watch the Mighty Mo Hooker fight when he unified. That dude had hand speed. He could put them
yeah,
together. You just don't. A lot of people don't think of hand speed with a style like Ramirez, but once upon a time he had it. Um, but the problem for Ramirez, man. No, go ahead, Brennan.
hand speed is always associated with foot speed. I feel like people do that a lot. Like if a guy has fast feet, that means he has fast hands. And that's not true because there's plenty of guys who had slow feet with fast hands as well. Like Adrian Broner gets talked about for having great hand speed, but he didn't have great foot speed. In fact, him not having great foot speed or great footwork is one of the things that I think hindered him from being better than he could, better as good as he could have been. So I would agree with your sentiments. Like I think Ramirez does have underrated hand speed. I think a lot of guys who don't have the fast speed have underrated hand speed. I think Virgil Ortiz is a guy that when he puts them together has underrated hand speed. His punches get from point A to point B very quickly, but like you said, people don't really associate certain guys with certain aesthetically, as certain styles with hand speed.
Just to take it back for 1 second about Tio and Barboza.
Go
One
ahead.
thing when I talk about the foreshadowing and the early foreshadowing favors
You're
Barboza,
big on that
that
foreshadowing.
yeah, that was a 10-8 round for Barboza to start. What I mean is just like I'm comparing Barboza and Tio to another potential Roach and Gervonta, you could never see Canelo or Crawford or Inoue or Usyk taking a knee after a light jab to the eye with hair juice bothering them, and you could never see that. I could never see those guys letting Arnold Barboza speak to them that way.
Mm.
And you know what I mean? And that's just unbecoming of a great fighter. Great fighters don't get down like that. Great fighters are fighters inside and outside the ring. They're a lot of the great fighters, they're gentlemen. They're not going to get their hands dirty outside the ring. They're too grown and polished for that, but they still carry this kind of energy in that kind of scenario that Tio was having with Barboza that no, 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 no. I'm not the one you're going to be talking to like that. But again, I still favor Tio in that fight. I just kind of wanted to mention that as a side note. But back to Ramirez and Devin Haney. The problem for Ramirez in this fight is I think he's looked well past his best in his last couple of fights. I was at his fight a year ago in Stockton against a faded Rancis Barthelemy, whose
Yep.
best days came at 130. And Rancis Barthelemy had Ramirez hurt a couple of times, almost out on his feet in their fight early. Ramirez went on to win that fight, but I remember looking at him and seeing a lot of the snap and the speed of his punches come off and his punch resistance, which was once excellent, not quite the same, getting hurt by Barthelemy in that fight. So I just think Devin Haney will definitely win this fight. But again, the pressure and the last thing to go is the punch and that left hook you mentioned. That does make it interesting. If Devin is shot, like De La Hoya said after the Garcia fight, it could Ramirez might be able to take advantage of that. I don't know how much because he's on the back nine himself. But I think that Haney will win a decision in this fight. Is my early thoughts. He's still an excellent boxer in the center of the ring. And I just want to see how he looks. I think that's going to be maybe the most significant takeaway from these three fights is what does Devin Haney look like after that Ryan Garcia fight? Because, there's a scenario where he wins everybody, he gets everyone back on the bandwagon. He looks great at 47. His positioning with his right hand is better. He worked on his deficiencies. But just like there's a chance that that's the case and he has everyone back on the Devin Haney train, there's a chance that he looks like Vargas did after that Trinidad fight. Just not the same fighter, especially whenever someone finds that chin. We'll
Yeah.
see. That's going to be important.
All I'm looking forward to when it comes to that fight is I just want to see how Devin Haney reacts if he's put into any like real resistance and firepower is coming his way from Ramirez. I want to see how he reacts because there's different types of being shot in boxing. You can be physically shot, but then you could also be mentally shot. And I don't think Devin is physically shot at all. I think he's still, he's still in his 20s, so he's gonna still be physically strong. He's at a higher weight class now where he's not cutting as much weight. It's just all up here. I want to see what he's like up here.
We'll want to see what happens if the first time Ramirez gets him on the ropes, like he's one to do, fires that left hook, gets that combination, works his combinations, and let's just see how Devin looks. Does he freeze up? Does he look super uncomfortable, or does he roll his shots, come back with a counter right hand, and get to grooving? And that we'll see. But that brings us to the main fight, Ryan and Rolly, and I feel like Ryan Garcia, man. I'm tempted to be on that bandwagon a little bit, and I have been for months now because I'll keep it real with my audience. Having covered Devin Haney since he was 15 years old, where he
Mm-hmm.
sparred Sean Porter when Sean Porter was coming off the Kell Brook fight. I can't help. I was in my 20s, in my early 20s, covering a young Devin Haney, and I knew he'd become champion, and he did. And so we're human beings. I kind of wanted to see him ascend to the number one pound for pound and everything and earn it and not be some dick rider that hands it to him. But
Yeah.
you want to be the guy who was one of the first reporters on the national scene to see this 15-year-old that you knew was something, that did become something. You kind of want to see if he can make it all the way to the top because you covered him since he was 15, and so I think with Devin being such a big favorite and me starting this channel right before the Haney Garcia fight and
That's
being
crazy.
so convinced that Haney was going to win that fight and Garcia wasn't at 100% psychologically and physically heading into that fight with everything he was saying, I was salty that Ryan made me and a lot of people in boxing look so stupid, right? And then once he popped for the PEDs and he blew and you're able to tack on that he blew weight, it kind of absolved like, okay, see, that's why I was wrong and everything. But
Yeah,
then
yeah,
months goes away and that pride subsides and you be honest with yourself and you check yourself. And I think I was walking to a Raiders game. I was covering one of the last games of the season for the Raiders, and
okay.
someone posted a clip of them sparring as amateurs, right? And I'm heading into Elysian. I'm watching this 1 minute clip of them sparring and I've seen them spar as amateurs. I've seen them fight as amateurs. All that shit's on YouTube. But it was like I'm watching it, and I'm like, not that this wasn't the first time I thought this, but he may just have his fucking number. Might just have his fucking number. Styles make fights. Devin is an outside rangy master. That's where he's gonna beat you. Is on the
Yep.
outside. It's not an inside fighter like that. And in this style, he has just met his match, perhaps. Ryan is the faster guy, the more athletic guy, the harder puncher, and he has such speed that he could throw the left hook at a longer range than most guys can. Jose Ramirez got to get up on you. Ryan Garcia doesn't. He can kind of throw it from a mid to almost long range, like a whip. And so it's like he may just have your number, man. It's a bad style. And now that Ryan is back with Reynoso, who he should have never left
You were
him.
always big on that. I remember us having those conversations back in 2021, 2022. I think we watched I'm gonna say it was Emmanuel Tego. Might have been that fight.
Yeah.
And you were going on for like hours talking about, this is like a tragedy. This guy was handed the keys of boxing to Canelo by Canelo with Reynoso. He was better with Reynoso. And so, yeah, I remember that really well, talking about that with you.
Ryan's got that Mexican blood, and Reynoso and Canelo being from Mexico, and they're cut from a different cloth than growing up in the United States. I say that as a proud, loving American, right?
Stars and
But
stripes.
but in Mexico, it's no mames way. It's like, hey, like it's that hard work, blue collar mentality, and that's exactly what the doctor ordered for a good looking superstar like Ryan, who's been able to get by on his talent so much. And it's Canelo and Reynoso coming from the background of talent ain't enough, kid. You got to show up every day at the gym when we say and put that work in. So this is exactly what Ryan needed. And now that he's back with them and everything he said at the press conference, I heard a focused Ryan Garcia, a serious Ryan Garcia, and a mean Ryan Garcia. It's not that
He told
he's
he told Tio to shut the fuck up. He was tired of hearing Tio, and
he
yeah,
did,
yeah,
and he let Rolly know, hey, keep it cool at the presser, or I'll slap the shit out of you, is what he said.
pretty
And
much.
Rolly's been keeping it cool at pressers anyways, which doesn't bode well for him in this fight. Ever since Rolly has been stopped by Tank, and I know Rolly well, I love Rolly. Even before that Tank fight, I saw like the Rocky 3 scene with Rocky and Mick. Rolly was becoming civilized. I've talked to high up matchmakers in this sport, Hall of Fame matchmakers, who said the same thing I said before I even brought it up. He got civilized. Rolly was at his best as a very, very uncouth, disrespectful ass motherfucker that would come into your gym with no amateur backgrounds and beat your ass because he
Let
didn't
his balls
have.
hang.
Yeah, he was crazy. He was a
Yes,
little crazy. And what this fight has the potential to be for Ryan Garcia, just like his promoter who was sitting to his right, is his De La Hoya Mayorga fight.
yep.
Except Rolly ain't providing that Mayorga energy. Mayorga told De La Hoya at their first press conference, he tried to slap him. He said, I'll fuck your wife. Mexicans don't even love you,
Like you, yeah,
puto, and all
the
this
Latinos are
stuff.
with me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
All of that. But
yeah.
still, even without that element yet to appear, Rolly, like Mayorga, is a wild slugger. I've compared him to Mayorga compared to these guys being the De La Hoyas, the Trinidads, the Shank. And so that's going to be a very interesting fight. Got to favor Ryan by knockout. But to conclude my little, Ryan bandwagon thing, it's just he's always had this hand speed and this punching power. And he's got this nice, clean base. I know he gives his back. He does a bunch of stupid things technically. But at the end of the day, he's this upright, got this beautiful stance when he got a solid base, power, speed. And I'm almost like, you're with Reynoso now. Let's see you make it happen, man, because you really could be the biggest thing in boxing with your head on right.
Special fighter.
Yeah, you could be you could really take this thing over and be as big as anybody.
It's funny you talk about the Ryan bandwagon, Sean. I can pinpoint the exact day I was on the Ryan bandwagon, and sometimes it was to my detriment. It was that day we were there in San Diego at the media workout.
Oh yeah, we both
Day.
thought he looked special. We kept making fun of Joe
Joe
Goosen, hyping
Goosen.
him up. Shout out to Joe Goosen, man. He
We, we,
was
we,
Corrales
we love Joe
Castillo. We love
Goosen.
him, but
We love Joe Goosen.
tell them the joke you said about Ryan with Joe that day.
He was talking up Ryan. So for the viewers out there, Joe was talking up Ryan, and he was talking about like how fast he was in his power, right? So as he's doing his little rant about Ryan, I look over to Sean because he's just going on, and I'm like, Sean, make sure you move back. Ryan might poke your eyes out.
Well, because he told us he was doing his bag, and he goes, "Guys, scoot back," and Brendan looks at me, and goes, you don't want Ryan to poke your eye out,
yeah,
because these guys, it was just.
It's an inappropriate joke.
Compare him to Joe Louis and Sugar Ray Robinson, and we got it. Like his power in person was special. Like but still, it was a bit much.
What did he say? He said that's light heavyweight power in a lightweight body.
Yeah.
This bag, and Ryan and the dad, and it was
genius.
Crazy. Genius, yeah, straight up genius. He created Ryan. He created an Instagram account. He created this bag right here. But listen, Ryan. I think if Ryan puts it together, Sean, I've always felt like, and I've said this probably since that day, anytime I talk about Ryan, he has the most natural talent of almost any fighter I've been around. Now that's only a part of the equation. We know, you could have natural talent, but you got to have
back on that. He wasn't born with exceptional defensive reflexes or fluidity or bend. But still, you can't teach height, speed, and punching power.
Yeah, I'm talking specifically to that: the height, the speed, the punching power. And not just that, like when he really has it going and he's fighting with confidence, he's insanely hard to beat. So, look, I like Rolly. I think he has gotten civilized, like you said. Well, the question I have for you, Sean, is like, what do you think made Rolly civilized? Was it the new like stardom, more attention, money? Why do you think he's become more civilized?
I think intellectually he found his stride. I think, I know Rolly, I think, grew up with a speech impediment. And I think, I've talked to him over the years. I think he beat the shit out of a lot of people who had something funny to say about him in high school and in middle school. He's always been a tough kid with the jujitsu background. He didn't even start really taking boxing serious until he almost was out of high school. But he's always been Rolly is one of the most naturally talented fighters I've ever seen. And I know people laugh at that. I promise you, whoever thinks it's funny, I wish you could watch him hit the mitts one day, or I could have seen what I've seen the best hit the mitts. I've seen the best train, and gifts aren't going to get it done at this level. You gotta hone your gifts. But Rolly, I mean, the fact that he's fighting Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis and these guys while starting at 17 with almost no, very little amateur background, the fact that he doesn't even take this that serious in terms of improving, he's still going out there winging it a lot. Like, yeah, but I just think what happened was, intellectually, he began to grow as a young man, and he's always been smarter than people think and a deeper thinker than people think. And that kind of offset the barbarian in him, the
Mm.
the crazy, the crazy kid with a screw loose. I don't think he has a screw loose like that as much these days and hasn't for some time. So it's working against him in boxing, but I think it actually works for him outside of the ring. I think he knows thyself better than a lot of these guys. I remember Rolly posted this picture of himself getting ready for his last fight with Manuel Jaimes, and the song he chose was "Roses" by Outkast, right?
Mm.
And I called him and I said, the way I interpreted your post was the song is about you really want this hot girl, but then you get close to the roses and it smells like, poo, 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 right? And what I'm saying is I take that as you and all your contemporaries, Ryan, Tio, Shakur, Devin, they're all getting to the roses that have eluded you a little bit. They're getting to the titles and the accolades and everything. But what they're finding out is it smells like ooh, ooh, ooh. Like they're getting their own problems along with that fame and everything.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Rolly, he has something that can't be relinquished or taken off of him. You could knock him the fuck out, but he's still Rolly.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these guys, their identities, a lot of us, me too, our identities are connected in part with how we achieve at our profession. And
Mm.
Rolly is put himself into a place as a human being, as a personality, that no matter how many times he may lose or get knocked out or whatever, he's still going to make you laugh. He's still going to be Rolly. He got knocked out by Esau Cruz and wished us all a happy Easter. How sweet of him. What a guy. Like, so yeah, that's how I break it down. But for this fight, if he could find a way to be the uncouth motherfucker he was when he sparred Ryan when they were younger, that would bode well for him.
That'd be great. I hope for the second press conference, because with these press tours, Sean, we've talked about this a lot over the years. The first press conference is always like, everybody's kind of just getting warmed up, everybody's getting comfortable being on that big stage, on in front of those big lights. That second press conference, I need to see a little bit of that unhinged Rolly Romero, because truth be told, I only see this fight going one way for Rolly. He's going out. He's probably going to go out on his back, to be honest with you. He needs to find a way to be that unhinged guy. He needs to close the gap. He needs to make Ryan really feel him. Like, he needs to push him back
with Ryan. Rolly,
and punch with him.
The tank fight just hasn't been letting his hands go like that.
Nah, I know. I mean, I think too. Like, is he still with Salas? I'm pretty sure he's still with Salas, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Like, I love Salas. He's a great coach. He's a world-renowned coach. But I don't think Salas is the kind of coach for Rolly. Like, he's very technical by the book.
Bullet might have been the better option.
Bullet was like the best. Like,
right.
Everything that got Rolly to this level was everything not by the book. So by training with the guy that's so by the book, it's for him, it's counterproductive. Not just because Ismail Salas was a great trainer for other Cuban fighters and other fighters in boxing doesn't mean it works for Rolly. Every coach, it's not one size fits all. So I kind of wish, in a sense, that Rolly and Bullet would have stayed together, because I feel like it was perfect. Bullet said one time he combined street fighting, karate, and boxing, and that's how we got Rolly. And it worked. It got him to this level. But without that kind of unpredictability and grit, he can't compete with these guys. It's just the truth.
Right. Well, Tank did say he's actually a harder puncher than Ryan. So he literally has a puncher's chance. But you don't have a puncher's chance if you're not really punching, you know. And so that Rolly maybe roll the dice. It's easy for us to say,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
how exciting would it be if Rolly's punching with Ryan and risks getting,
Oh,
highlight reeled by that left hook, but in hopes of landing his own bomb? That could
we
be
just
a
need
very explosive fight.
we need a fight where Rolly is willing to put himself in a 50-50 exchange.
Yeah.
That's what he needs to do to have his best chance to win. Boxing, picking his shots, being a discipline of the house of fundamentals is not gonna
House of
get it done.
Fundamentals. That is what they call Salas's gym here in Vegas. You're not lying.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I wish him the best. I hope he does well in the fight. I don't see it boding well for him. But I didn't see it boding well for Lamont Roach. So I don't. What do we know? What do I know? What do we know?